Hey, so I am currently a rising senior in high school, so I've been working on some portfolio stuff for our college applications. So I'm going to do some commentary on the most recent one I have worked on. There's others I'd like to talk about, but I don't have the recordings, so I'll probably save everything I have to say about them for my full college video I'll have out in February once I get all my results back. I started the sketch for this at like 1 a.m., I think. I randomly had the idea for the pose of the two characters here, and I don't know, I just really liked this pose for the two people here. For college stuff, it's important, at least for illustration majors, I know it's less so for animation majors, that your pieces have some sort of meaning. I drew a whole background for this one because I really like them. It's technically like my fourth or fifth piece in a bedroom, so I hope I don't get in trouble for that. They're all pretty different though, I think, at least. So I've really wanted to make a piece based around this one quote Gerard Way said during, I think, one of their recent Japan shows. Maybe it was Osaka. He said, "In the face of extermination, say fuck you!" I and a lot of people, especially on Tumblr, took this as a response to, like, anti-trans stuff happening. This makes sense, at least to me, since he's always been an advocate and, like, tentative member. I called this piece In the Face of Extermination, obviously based on the quote. It's just about, in layman's terms, when transphobia kiss trans. The actual college blurb I wrote is this, in case you were wondering, but that's the gist. Onto the actual painting. I did the original sketch and color key in Procreate and finished the rest in Photoshop. I was going to do all of it in Procreate, but I got these new cool brushes that were Photoshop exclusive and I wanted to try them out. One thing about me is that I will absolutely abandon all plans I had for drawing if it means I can use some cool new brushes. I'm glad I switched to Photoshop though, since I had an easier time fixing perspective and stuff there for some reason. This actually ends up being a lineless piece later, since pretty much every time I do a painting, I'll be looking at other artists who I'm inspired by. I think I used to be, especially more in middle school, kind of petty and jealous when it came to artists I wanted to emulate. I'm still, like, jealous in the sense that I want to make my art look like theirs, but now I just look at them and study their paintings instead of huffing and puffing in a corner. So here I saw the background artist I was looking at had mainly lineless pieces, so I tested out mine looked without lines, and once the colors were down, I ended up really liking it. I actually don't usually do line art at all. I'll just do a sketch and then erase and clean it up and color under that and then render on top of everything else, which was basically my process here, minus cleaning up the sketch. I also just gotta talk about this cart in the corner. It's meant to be this thing from Michael's that I used to have once. I just wanted something so the floor didn't feel so empty, and it seemed like that would do it, but just, oh my god. The perspective of this thing destroyed me. I think I redid it over 5 times. If I still had mine, I would have gotten a reference for myself, which is what I end up doing for the turntable, but alas, I do not. It is one of many things that disappeared after my house fire. Anyway, this thing gave me a ridiculous amount of trouble, and I ended up being so stubborn about not replacing it with some other set dressing that I just powered through it. The final version is still a bit wonky, but it's in the background, so I'll take it. I think the perspective on the dresser and turntable in the foreground is not technically accurate, but I spent so much time making the transparent part of the record player look good that I'm not about to edit it. I checked my values on this piece a lot too. I'm not great about having my values make sense, so I always check them to slowly train my brain to understand the whole concept. At the end, when I get to the phone lighting and blue overlay, I think the whole feeling starts to come together. I really enjoyed doing a lot of shading on this since I let myself keep it pretty loose and messy. I usually don't do this in my Photoshop stuff since I abuse the polygon selection tool to get a bunch of neat straight lines. I love how those pieces look too, but I don't know. There's something about this piece that I think the messier lines work for. I guess I should talk more about like my actual process when it comes to a digital painting as a whole and not just these little pieces. How I actually go about it depends on what program I'm using since I use Procreate, Clip Studio, and Photoshop for whatever reason. So I'll usually do a really quick sketch with no regard for basically anything. No care for perspective or anatomy. I'm just trying to get everything out of my brain. Then I'll do the colors in black and white just to know where my lights and darks are and to, again, practice values. I'll do my colors on top of this and just make sure it's similar to the value I laid down. If my sketch was already pretty clean, I'll just render it now, but this one wasn't, so I did a sketch with better perspective and anatomy and redid all the colors in Photoshop. Then I toggle off the sketch and draw over my colors until I'm done. I feel like I have a bad habit when it comes to overworking a piece, which is just when I'm having a lot of fun working on it, so I just keep adding more and more and more until it becomes too messy or busy. So here I tried to make sure I wasn't just piling colors on colors on colors, so it was still somewhat comprehensible in the end. Also, slight side tangent, but I also feel like whatever music I'm listening to always ends up affecting what I'm drawing. I was listening to a lot of Jeff Rosenstock, who's like this cool kind of post-punk artist I really like, but his music is kind of angry, sad, and I feel like a lot of that influenced the less saturated colors I chose. I really love fun colors in my pieces, but the desaturation works for this, I think. The overlay I add at the end makes it a bit more saturated, but the feeling's all the same. I'm gonna stop myself talking about music now, since if I don't, I will never shut up. So I want to say that there's this very specific kind of lighting I'd like to do, especially for metals or glass, like the needle in the glass of the record player. It's this kind of tapered square. I use it all over so much of my art because I feel like it's such a nice shape for highlights. But squarish or polygonish art is just really appealing to me, so even in my more painterly styles, I'll use it. I'm still reeling from Spider-Verse, so I gotta add halftones as my final touch in all my pieces. For most of them, I actually mainly use the brushes made by the Spider-Verse art director because he's such a huge inspiration to me. I ended up going back and forth on whether or not I like this end product, but I've sat on it for a few days and I think I'm happy with it. It's definitely wonky in some places, but I don't think it distracts too much, so I'm mostly happy calling it done. I also hope I'll get to do more commentary on painting stuff, especially with ones I'll have a lot more to talk about. I usually have a lot of thoughts about studies, so I may do some studies I've done, or will do soon. With all that said, here's how it looks all done. As always, you can find my commissions, Ko-Fi, and socials all in the description, and I hope to see you again. Bye!